Whether you're at your desktop, laptop, tablet, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com is delivered to all those platforms. That's right. It's even there on your iPhone and smartphone. The same local news, weather, and sports that's on the full-size edition is on your iPhone and smartphone just by going to DeWittDailyNews.com. If you haven't tried it, why don't you? Go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone. DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone today is Ed Shimon with the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, a good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Seth. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for making time for us as always. Good to have you back on the program. Been a while since we caught up. And Ed, let's take a look at just July so far in terms of weather. I don't know. It feels like it's maybe been, I say cooler than average, but it's been rather pleasant. We got that big rain last week, right before, maybe right after the 4th of July. My time's running together on me for whatever reason. But how about just July, what we've seen so far? How about the trends early on in the month?
Actually, overall, it hasn't been too bad. We had a couple of 90-degree days, really warm, 4th of July and the day after. That Tuesday was our hottest day almost of the year, but 96 was the high in Lincoln and across to Clinton too. So, but that little brief heat wave, the rest of the days really have been like low to maybe mid 80s. Even one day was upper 70s on the 7th. So, and then we got a dose of rain there, the 7th and 8th, and that actually bumped us slightly above normal for the month by about a half an inch. We had 2.25 inches of rain out of that in the Clinton Lincoln area, but some areas got up to 5 or even 6 inches down towards Sangamon County. So, but it's not been too bad really for potential heat waves that we were thinking were going to be above normal for July. So far we're tracking pretty good for July as Julys go.
And what has kept the heat away? I mean, we saw some massive heat waves in June. What so far this month has kept that heat from, kind of engulfing the Midwest? What are we seeing?
We're getting some helpful low pressure kind of over the Great Lakes, and that's just kind of guiding the storms to our west and kind of bottling the heat just a little bit west of the Mississippi River. And it isn't too far west, and they're in some really significant heat that has been persistent. But we've just dodged that bullet just a little bit on the 4th and 5th of July there that we were really hot. But, we're going to see more relief, as we get into the rest of this week really too. And we're not going to see all that much heat for another, 5 to 7 days here.
Yeah, I was looking at the forecast this morning in preparation of our conversation, and it looks like after this week, though, it warms up a little bit. How about that, and how strong of a signal are we seeing for a potential warm-up next week?
Yeah, it's definitely coming into the picture more clearer now. That 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day outlooks are really shifting that heat wave back towards Illinois, and we're seeing a significant, we're in the 70th to 80th percentile in far western Illinois of above normal temperatures for the 18th to the 24th time frame. So that third week of July looks like it's going to be pretty hot, and then the precipitation looks below normal. So we're going to kind of hot and dry is going to come back here shortly. So enjoy this. Well, today is going to be hot, but then the rest of this week, lower 80s, really comfortable. Really enjoy it because the heat's going to be turned right back up again.
Sure. So with that said, Ed, when that heat returns, of course, you and I were catching up in the break a little bit about the drought monitor, and sounds like that's going to get an update after those rains last week. Highlight the rainfall from last week, how far perhaps it went in relieving drought conditions in the area, and what the status is of an update from the Climate Prediction Center, if I'm not mistaken, or drought monitor. How about those things?
Yeah, we did get some very beneficial rains. All of central Illinois really got at least an inch, and most areas got more than 2 inches, with a swath of 3 to 5 like Schuyler County down to Effingham and Mattoon. So not far. I mean, south of the Clinton area here. So, but in the Clinton area, it looks like, yeah, about 2 to 2.25 right across that area too. So, how helpful is it going to be that the moderate drought was in Champaign, Piatt, and Douglas County on the Climate Prediction Center's drought outlook. That area got the 2.5. So I think we're going to see at least a reduction in area of that moderate drought. And then we had abnormally dry is also in there. So we'll probably see just a brief respite, a shrinking of the areas of drought. But I'm looking at the Champaign groundwater, and it did not rebound back up as far as I would have liked to have seen. Where it's pretty low. Champaign is really low compared to Peoria. Peoria is below normal, but Champaign is significantly still below normal, and that's updated as of yesterday. So, the rebound was just not as strong, I guess, as I expected in Champaign. So that far east Illinois may still have some moderate drought in there yet, depending on what Climate Prediction Center wants to throw in there for the new update on Thursday.
Well, and that's one thing I noticed as, I try to, after the significant rains like we got last week, try to pass along that CoCoRaHS data. I know you and I have talked about CoCoRaHS in the past. Try to pass along that data. And one thing I noticed is really you got north of Lincoln and Clinton, and you went north and to the west. Rain was pretty significant, but when you went to anywhere basically south and to the east, not nearly as much rain. And Champaign County was one area that I certainly noticed that I sure thought they would have gotten a lot more rain than they did, just by the swaths of rain that were coming through. It looked like they would sustain themselves and drop just a bunch of rain all over the state, but that just wasn't the case. I was really surprised to see some of those totals over that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a high variability and over from county to county, and some areas did not get quite as much. Even like by my house in Peoria County and Peoria City, I barely had a half inch out of that. Well, it was about 3/4 of an inch, but
no kidding.
Nothing like the 2.5s that came in further east. So.
Man. That is hard to believe. So what is when they update that drought status, Ed? I mean, do you have any particular prediction? Is it hard for you to say at this point what we might get in that report? What are you anticipating?
Well, the drought was mainly east of I-55 and then a corridor over towards, Schuyler County. But I think there'll be a reduction in the central part of our, along I-55. That'll be reduced. Anything along there, especially south of Lincoln, heading towards Champaign. I think we're still going to have a moderate drought is labeled D1, and we had some severe drought in there for level D2, Champaign, Douglas, and Piatt. But I think maybe our severe drought will be reduced to a moderate drought, and then the moderate drought area have crossed. Let's see, it goes from Logan, DeWitt, down into Macon. I think that area is definitely going to see an improvement just to abnormally dry. At least that's my gut feeling. Just because when you drop that much rain, I think we're going to see some improvement. But the drought is still there. When I'm looking at the 8-inch and 20-inch depths at Champaign, it's way down there into the 80th to 90th percentile below normal of ground moisture right now. So, it's not going to help Champaign and East as much as I had hoped, I think. So.
So despite all that rain, drought still a concern in a lot of parts of Illinois, it sounds like. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest on the phone for today. Ed, talk to us a little bit. You mentioned that maybe the next 2 weeks we're looking at slim chances of rainfall, so that hot and dry trend will resume. What are the outlooks for rainfall perhaps the rest of the month as we roll through July? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, it just looks like the storm track is going to kind of be skirted north of us. And we're going to not really be in a persistent area of, every 2 or 3 days we'll get some rain. It just doesn't look like we're going to see that kind of benefit the rest of the month of July. So I know we're a half inch above normal now with 2¼ inches through the 10th, but we may be lucky to get another inch the rest of the month in a good part of central Illinois. So hopefully, we are able to just get a few storms that pop up in there periodically. But when I see that kind of a heat wave signal in the Climate Prediction Center where they've got that significant above normal right in the heart of, the Midwest and into Illinois, that just tells me the storm track's going to more persistently be towards the Dakotas, Minnesota, the Great Lakes, and over into Ohio and Pennsylvania. So, that just doesn't bode well. I think the drought may return with a vengeance as we head to the, last week of July, if that can set up, occur.
Yeah, for sure. So could that change? I mean, could tropical storm season change that? Could, I guess weather events in the West, could that change at all? How does that work, Ed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the one thing that's the wild card in all of this is that, if there's a tropical system that does find its way into the Gulf of Mexico, then we've got a chance of some of that moisture coming into, Louisiana, Mississippi, and coming up into Illinois. Right now it's quiet. There's one little disturbance right along the Florida panhandle, but it doesn't look like it's going to, develop into anything. So if there's no low pressures off of Africa starting to truck across towards the Lesser Antilles and then I don't see us getting a lot of help in the next 2 weeks or so from any tropical systems. So hopefully the later we get in the summer, that's when hurricane season really ramps up. And September is the peak month. So if we can, during those typical drought months of Illinois' time frame, get a couple of tropical systems into the Gulf of Mexico, then we can have some hope for a deluge during a typical dry period of our year. But right now, tropical's not helping too much in terms of the picture that I'm seeing out there.
Well, let's hope for maybe a change in that. Otherwise, could be looking at some dire circumstances, it sounds like, as we get through the to the end of July. Ed, I'll tell you what, sir, let's take a time out here, come back with some more. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the phone. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It is brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat starting the day higher. July corn $7.95 up 16 3/4. September corn up 19, 6.52 1/4. December new crop up 19, 6.42 1/2. July beans starting today 16.30 1/4 up 39. August beans up 18, 15.31 1/4. And November new crop 14.15 3/4 up 19 1/4. July wheat starting today 8.88 up 8 3/4. September wheat up 10 1/4, 9.01 3/4. December wheat 9.17, that's up 10 1/2. July bean meal 4.8460 up 6.20. July bean oil 64.07, that's up 90 cents. And that's a look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade for this Monday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Having a hard time finding the correct new car, truck, SUV, or crossover to fit your needs? This is Scott Baum from Bob Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. Some lots look low on inventory, so go to our website, look at our pre-order and reserve tab. You'll see inventory in transit, which are built and on their way to Clinton, and in production, new Chevys and Buicks, which are being built and will arrive soon. Or you can always call our sales team. They can help you find the correct one just for you. BombChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Here's a supply chain update from your Clinton Save-A-Lot. Owner Dave Jackson here. Workers in retail and restaurants today are doing the best they can under very trying circumstances. That situation is no different here at your Clinton Save-A-Lot. It's been a team effort to keep our shelves stocked with the freshest meat, produce, and items you purchase every day. While many stores have cut hours and services, your Clinton Save-A-Lot has maintained our staffing level and regular hours thanks to my fantastic team of employees. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest on the phone, Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, as we talked this morning, we did not get to very much on the temperatures as we round out the month of June. Things are going to look awfully dry, but how about temperatures? What can we expect? What's trending at this time?
Yeah, as we head into the last part of the month, the week 3 and 4 outlooks are pointing towards above normal, not as significantly high as we're seeing in the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlooks, but all across, all the way from Idaho all the way through Illinois to the East Coast. There's a big swath of above normal temperatures. So it looks like the persistent jet stream flows are going to keep the colder air bottled up in Canada, and we're going to probably see, more of those upper 80s, maybe lower 90s, through the last week of July into the first week of August as well.
So dry, and more dry, it sounds like, Ed. We got to appreciate these rains and cool temperatures that they bring while we can. You mentioned that's going to be the case here for this week. How about July, just in general, Ed? Anything I missed? Anything you want to touch on that stood out to you about this month or the outlooks of this month so far?
Yeah, nothing too significant, although this is still our severe weather season where we typically see, more damaging winds and maybe not as much hail, but damaging winds are pretty prominent usually in our July time frame. And we're not going to see a whole lot of that the rest of the month, it looks like. I know we have a chance today. There's some severe storms that might bubble up, from Lincoln and north, including Clinton. So that'll be in the, 6 o'clock time frame as that starts to erupt. But, we may dodge the bullet as far as severe weather for July. Sometimes it could be pretty active. So
knock on wood, right?
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah.
Sure. Hey, let's look ahead beyond July, August, September, even October. What are some of the trends we're looking at for the month of August and then beyond? How about that?
Sure. Yeah. The seasonal outlooks, especially in the August, September, October time frame, showing a pretty solid above normal for just west of Illinois. So we're just slightly tipped above normal temperatures, 33 to 40th percentile. Normal would be equal chances of 33% of each, above, below, and normal. So we're just not a strong signal of above normal. So that's good. Maybe we can have some cooler periods as we head into the late summer, early fall. But unfortunately, below normal precip is still targeted all the way from Colorado and Wyoming straight through Illinois to eastern Ohio. So that's a pretty wide span of below normal. So the Great Lakes might be getting the storm track still, even as we head into the late summer and early fall.
Interesting stuff. When it comes to impacts on crops and such, I don't know, obviously not part of USDA or anything of that nature, but what do you anticipate there, Ed? How about the condition of crops as we get towards August, September, and then harvest time in October-ish? How about those things?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we got an informational email from the state climatologist, Dr. Trent Ford, just a couple of days ago about our severe drought, towards the Champaign area. And he said, some of the corn is already getting close to tasseling and being under stress right now. The leaves are kind of curling a bit before this rain. So the top end yield has already probably been diminished currently. And if we don't get substantial rains here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, his estimation is that we're going to have more substantial yield losses. And if we continue dry all the way, into the August time frame, we're probably going to have some corn futures and soybean futures that are going to be dropping pretty quickly once we start getting a better picture of what's out there on the plants. So we're really at a teetering point right now. I mean, we've got to feed these plants with some moisture. I know some farmers have irrigation systems, and I hope they're going to be able to use those extensively here in the next few days or next couple of weeks, just to give the plants what they need during this development phase, and where they're going to actually produce the crop yields here. So we're definitely teetering on a very significant loss of yield this year if we can't realize some periodic rain in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. So when it comes to, Ed, the long-term outlooks, how strong of a signal is that? In terms of the dry and the heat and all of those things. How strong of a signal are you noticing? How much could possibly change between now and say August, and then that 3-month outlook? How about that?
Yeah, like I said, the August, September, October is just slightly higher chances of above normal and slightly below normal precipitation. So to me, it looks like there's potential that we'll have a few storm tracks go through there, especially in the August time frame. I think we're going to see a breakdown at some point in the second, maybe third week of August, where we're going to get a couple of severe weather outbreaks, and I think that might be a little bit of a saving grace to stave off, a serious drought. At least that's my estimation based on what I'm seeing, because the storm track is going to buckle. It's going to hit Illinois. It's going to be close by to the north. It doesn't take much of a wiggle in that jet stream, and we'll get some, beneficial rains, I think, in that, middle part of August.
Very good. So hopefully that will be the case. Ed, anything else on that long-term outlook that you want to talk about? Anything of note from it?
Nothing significant. I think we're setting up for actually a pretty nice fall overall. I mean, if you're not a farmer anyway, it looks like temperatures are going to be in the normal range as we head later into fall anyway. So at this point, nothing significant as we head into fall and winter, but even part of the winter looks above normal to start out with. So I don't know if we're going to not have snow until January 1st again, or we'll have to see. The above normal signal starts to bend back upward to a more significant signal of above normal as November and December come along. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, Ed, normally I would be curious about that outlook, but it's the summertime. I don't want to think about snow. So I'm not going to, it's kind of the don't ask, don't tell, I guess. But
right.
With that said, Ed, anything else from your perspective of interest today before we let you go for the morning? Anything standing out about July, the outlooks, or just weather in general? Anything you want to mention today we haven't touched on?
Yeah, well, actually today I didn't touch on it. We're pretty close to heat advisory levels today. So if you're out there today, the heat index in the shade is going to be, 100, 102, 103. Don't be false in a false sense of security. It's just one day of heat, but, just be careful, hydrate, take some breaks from the cooler air, because today you can quickly reach that heat exhaustion level, when you're exerting yourself outside today. So it's going to be a hot one. So take that into account.
All right, Ed, it's always good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for making time for us today.
You bet, Seth. No problem.
That is Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, my guest on the phone for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.